Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right, well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is Sound Off number 128 for July 7th, 2026. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, just in a different locality.
Yeah, same. All right. Well, let's dive in. How are you going to change my mind this week?
Well, we've touched upon the subject a number of times and promised our eager listeners and viewers that we would talk about the franchise situation. Is it a curse or is it a king? I'm going to try and change your mind. I think you're one of the few people I can actually have this conversation with that actually understands a little bit about the franchising business rather than is jumping in with both feet. And that is the danger. Some developers of concepts and entertainment opportunities see this as a panacea. And I personally feel that this is a very dangerous model that should actually be left to other minds to entertain, leaving the core entertainment business to maybe a core umbrella operation while they also employ a division that handles franchising. A little bit like Dave & Buster's used to do until recently.
Yeah. I always... I get concerned when I see certain industries really get overtaken heavily by franchise models.
Yes.
We saw this happen with the trampoline park model, and there was massive expansion way too quickly before the model was really truly tested. And then you ended up with all these defunct Gen Z franchisees who had put Gen 1 trampoline park franchisees. And you end up with a lot of capital lost and struggles to operate. And eventually they figure out the adventure park model, which is a multi-attraction active park, active play type of model, which creates adventure and everything else. And the trampoline park concept sort of moved away. And you moved into this like multi-attraction thing. And then so the franchise began to pick up. And then you begin to see this in the pickleball space. And funny enough, actually, a friend of ours, Barry Zellickson, who runs Fun Across America, just sent me an article this morning about the death spiral of the pickleball business.
Oh.
And, we've talked about pickleball before here, but you saw a massive influx of different franchisors, the Pickler, as one of those examples of really trying to expand aggressively in all these pickleball facilities before the business was really proven. And I think that's what concerns me about, when you see a new franchise model come in, it's a saturated subset of our industry with something that is very little different and has not really been truly tested for longer than 6 months. Really should be tested for 2 years or so before you begin to try to franchise the model, at least to prove out that what you are franchising is valuable. The second thing I'll say here is that the franchisors typically have a different incentive than the franchisees. The franchisors have the incentive to sell as many locations as possible, to get that upfront franchise fee and to try to scoop up a little bit of the royalties while they're still successful. And their long-term goal is to sell that franchise system to private equity or to somebody else. And they don't care as much about the individual franchisee. And so they're willing to take anybody who fogs a mirror, typically, to become their franchisee versus somebody who will actually operate and truly understands the industry.
I call it the 3 cycles of pain. It's either we've got this fantastic idea, but we don't have the capital, so let's franchise the hell out of it. We've opened a couple of venues and we think we understand it. Let's start up a franchise business. Or we're an established operation and all of the founders and originators want to get out and make as much money as possible. Let's start up a franchise operation. Those are the 3 that I normally come across. We have within the virtual reality arcade and VR arena business a number of very successful franchisees operations. Some of the names that I would quote as franchise VR arcade operations with 300, 400 facilities under their belt wouldn't be the ones that would jump to mind straight away. Some of them are actually Eastern European and Middle Eastern franchise units that have been very successful but kept their light under a bushel. Then my biggest concern is really the competitive socializing market, where I don't believe that certain of the competitive socializing social venues have had enough time in the oven, as it were, to prove that their model is successful, no matter that they've opened 10, 15 or 20 facilities. And so I watch with interest certain chains, the flight clubs, the putt shacks, as well as the Topgolfs of this sector, to see, are we due to go through a period? I'm old enough to remember the location-based entertainment wars of the late 90s, where everybody and their man was trying to compete with Discovery Zone and open up a entertainment facility, only for the bubble to burst, profits not to be there. We're going through a whole load of pain. I would like to try and avoid repeating history, especially that type of history again, but I'm also seeing a lot of greed. And the one thing about a franchise, away from making you money from every person that fogs up that mirror to acquire every dentist or doctor that wants to use their retirement slush funds to set up an entertainment operation, there is the real issue of recurring revenue. And if you do a franchise, there's the franchise where you just hand it to them with a bow written around it and say, have a nice time. And then there's the franchise where they are becoming part of the family and they have to follow quite strict licensing regulations. And these are the things that I think the competitive socializing sector, going towards its next phase of development, is going to have to come to terms with.
Yeah, indeed. All right, well, coming up after the break, we'll dive right into the trends.
Intercard makes cashless easy with award-winning readers, self-serve kiosks, real-time reporting, and flexible guest payment options. From play cards and credit cards to mobile payments and QR codes. Since introducing the industry's first card system in 1989, Intercard has helped operators reduce cash handling, increase guest spending, and run smarter venues. Intercard is the world leader in cashless technology. If you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you'll become one soon. Visit intercardinc.com to learn more.
Well, thank you for that. And straight into the biz. And talking about franchises, our friends in Japan, Bandai Namco Experience, has announced that they're going to be making available their unique Namco franchise as a franchise. So their Namco chain of operations. They have about 255 locations out there, and now you will be able to take this on as a turnkey. That will be the gashipo, the amusement, the crane machines, I'm sure the Bandai Namco brand, as well as a deal on where you buy your merch for the Japanese sector. And they've turned around and said, that they expect by 2030 through this deal that they will have 100 franchises added to their operation. Will they? What will be the appetite for the Japanese market, or will Genda come along and eat their lunch? These are the questions.
Well, it's certainly going to be competition from Genda no matter what. We know that, and especially in the Western market now under the Kilton brand, as they begin to roll out more and more of those locations. But I find this interesting. Well, first of all, anytime anybody announces that they're going to be franchising, there's always going to be 100 stores by 2030 or 100, whatever. There's always some big number because that's they've got to make some sort of splash there. But I think the difference here is two things. One is that they are already operating 255 locations. Most franchisors, when they begin to franchise, they have maybe 2 to 5 of their locations that they've been operating for just a few years. Whereas this is like 255 locations. They know what know how to run operations. They have the supply chain to supply to the franchisees. So I think just to start there, they're in a better franchisor-franchisee relationship position. At the same time, they are a corporate-owned group that's running 255 locations that's used to owning and operating those locations, controlling everything that happens inside the locations. Making that mental shift to now handing this over to somebody who's this willy-nilly operator who you have less control over, to go and take your brand and do what they want with it to some extent, right? Obviously restrictions within the franchise system, but this is a different mindset shift to then go and work with, like, versus the general managers, you could tell exactly what to do when they're having a problem, to the now franchisee owner operator who you can suggest what to do and hope they do it. So that will be a shift for them that they will have to figure out how to deal with.
It all depends on what that contract, that licensing agreement contract looks like. I really want to see that licensing contract agreement because there's one important component. Do you have to buy the merch and the prizes from Bandai Namco?
Oh, I would be wildly shocked if they don't, but that would be interesting to find out, because then you could end up with some very interesting franchisee locations that do not look like the rest of the Namco locations at all.
Exactly. So if you can dress the child up funny in different clothing, then we're going to have some unusual Namco stores. If it's all you have to follow these rules, the McDonald's level of policing, then, from Bandai Namco Experience's point of view, this is a very nice companion to their Namco cross-store business, and is what we've been seeing across the Japanese entertainment sector recently, where they're pushing the IP as much as the entertainment. Jumping on, and the big news, though it's still early days of time of recording, Comcast threw the hand grenade into the middle of their operation and announced that they would be separating the Sky division and the NBCUniversal division, NBCUniversal, including the theme park division and some of their film operation. Well, this is going to really put the cat amongst the pigeons. It now makes the Universal theme park operation part of a separate entity away from Comcast. How much will that change the management positioning? Will they have more money to roll out more parks? We know that Universal is in the middle of at least two major theme parks, the UK park and rumors of a new Middle East entertainment operation, as well as maybe some of those concepts that they had to put to one side because Comcast weren't interested in going down this path. Could we be also about to see a doubling down on their regional and retail entertainment? The Universal Horror Unleashed concept could now be getting a large shot in the arm, part of this separation, or vice versa. Things could be curtailed as they now have to pay high licensing fees to the parent.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what that type of parent separation looks like between Comcast and NBCUniversal. I think this actually can be a very good thing for both the content and and basically the entertainment media and attraction division. So I actually think this is good. It makes sense from my standpoint. Like Comcast can focus on their infrastructure and cable and subscriptions and everything else that they deliver to the consumer, and then NBCUniversal can focus on the things that they have done well over the last century of basically. So looking forward to seeing how this all settles and basically how it all shakes out.
Yeah, we're hoping that we don't see the penny pinching that we've seen prior to this situation that leads to situations like Universal Kids Resort. We touched upon this in a recent Open and Shut, but we can delve a little bit more into the Frisco in Frisco. A perfect textbook example of managing expectations, developing an entertainment concept that's feasible to achieve, and just the dangers of social media and marketing. For those of you that aren't aware, our friends at Universal have opened Universal Kids Resort in Texas. This was meant to be an ambitious project, a resort aimed at a very young audience, not super young, but a young audience, building off of IP, but in a hotel, resort, and mini attractions configuration. And the early reviews were appalling, and the media backlash to the opening has not been any better, with phrases thrown around like the facility resembling a maximum security prison or an Amazon fulfillment center. I've never walked around an Amazon fulfillment center.
Well, you could now.
I can now. This is going to be a serious worry for all of those that are investing in the Universal Dream Team or design team to understand, do they know what market they're in, or are they just going for, if we paint Shrek or Jurassic Park on it, they will come?
Yeah, this is frankly an operational and launch disaster. There's so many things that could have been done differently. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, the attractions they picked, the IP they picked, are actually a great fit for their target audience. This, the age group was from my opinion anyway, a great fit.
That's the easy part, Brand.
Right. Oh no, I know, and even some of the experiences they created were not bad experiences in themselves for the age group, right? So again, you got to remember that this is targeting that 12 and under. I think of the age group as that Legoland, that Legoland age group. My kids, once they hit 10, 11, 12, they were sort of aging out of Legoland, and I could see them aging out of this kids resort as well. So to that end, if the parents were expecting a classic Universal experience, then I think they misunderstood, or maybe it was potentially mismarketed. That all being said, what they really, knowing their location in Frisco, Texas, knowing the amount of sun that location gets, how hot it gets, etc., they underdeveloped the amount of shade and other amenities, and even just large plants. When Disneyland was first opened, they brought in, especially for the Jungle Cruise area and everything else, full-size trees and plants and everything else. There's no reason why they couldn't have brought in full-size plants and put them into this place to give more shade and just the feeling of improving on sight lines and everything else. And then the other side is, I think maybe they were used to the size of walkways and pathways and everything else that a normal full-size Universal park needs. In Orlando, or you can't really argue the one in LA because they were compressed on size, but let's talk about the one in Orlando, or the locations in Orlando. Here, they're just the volume and throughput is not going to require the amount of extra walking space and dwell space that's needed, and so they could have been much more compressed in all of their attractions. And then again, being more compressed gives you a better sense of proximity to other attractions, to other people, and less of this feeling of you're just in this open desert wasteland, which is what all the pictures of guests that have visited there are showing it. So a lot of basically layout and operational design issues that could have been avoided had they really thought through their target audience a little bit better.
I would love to know the resumes of the individuals involved in this project. I get this awful feeling, personal opinion, that someone went to the IKEA catalog and selected Water Ride Flavor 6, Jungle Gym Flavor 3, and they dropped them in. They dropped them in with a CAD program that was set to resort walkways in Orlando. And we ended up with this. Where's the bamboo? Where's the seating? Where's the shading? The basics of understanding your locality, your guest experience. And I'm just wondering, is this going to see a purge within the Universal design team? Because if you drop the ball on this type of IP, then questions will have to be raised about the other park projects that are in development.
Yeah.
Anyway, Moving on, and another one that we touched upon in recent Open and Shut was, the continuation of the divesting of properties from parques. We talked about some of their water parks in the US that were let go, and now we have the Raging Waters Sydney facility being handed over to new ownership and soon to be rebranded. Well, I think it's actually already, their website seemed to be already operational as Sydney Action Parks. Let's hope the new owners enjoy what they have and that they can build an empire of their own where Parquet could not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they get to expand, right, from Jamboree Action Park to now having a second location, Sydney Action Park, and this gives them that growth opportunity. And my guess is they had probably a decent deal on this location. There's no way that they spent to acquire this location what Parquet has put into this location over the number of years that it's been in active development and operations.
This is what you would expect to see, a going concern acquired by local operator who now is in control of two of the largest visitor destinations in Australia. That's going from reasonable to domination, and that momentum has to keep going. I also know that there is part of the deal, some payments going in regarding refurbishment and development of the brand, which they have now made their own. So this is an interesting one, but it is part of my constant consideration about consolidation and restructuring that seems to be going on in the market. People with capital to acquire, those with assets that they need to divest from. Moving on, and a surprise one, though not such a surprise as we touched upon in Open and Shut, that's Fun Spot America in Atlanta, acquired or rebranded 2018, turned into a Fun Spot, some money put in, redevelopment, but fundamentally it hasn't achieved what they were hoping for, and the facility is closing in August. Very quick closing, just a month from when we are recording this. It's not, again, as I said previously, I would kind of have expected a deal to have been done to find someone to take this off their hands, and as we just saw previously, rebranded it and relaunched it. This was an acquisition by the Fun Spot America team that was out of their comfort zone, as you touched upon. And I think it is something that's come back to bite them very hard.
Especially because it's not like they developed this thing over a period of time. They came in and acquired this business in 2017 before they rebranded to Fun Spot America. It was obviously Dixieland Fun Park, then it became Fun Junction USA, and then it was acquired again by Fun Spot in 2017. And so this seemed like it was a desire to expand more aggressively than they were probably prepared to. And maybe they had some extra capital. They thought, well, let's go and expand. And instead of doing what Fun Spot has done very well since their very beginning, which was to grow organically, they started as a small FEC and expanded and added bigger attractions and some roller coasters and bought more land and then added a location. And in most cases, they expand organically. They tried to go in from an acquisition standpoint without really maybe fully understanding what they were buying, where they were buying it, and who their target audience was. And it just didn't fit their ethos and how they grew their current locations. And I think it was just an overexpansion and overreach that just ended up not working out for them, unfortunately. And I think one of the two reasons that may exist is that the fact that they didn't announce a sale of this property, but rather announced a closure, is that they're looking to potentially consolidate attractions, bring some of those back into their two existing locations, or to just have a write-off. Maybe there's some tax benefits to just being able to write this off as a loss, and that could be another reason. for the closure versus a sale.
It's one of those considerations that's out of my bailiwick, is when, the financial heads get together of how they're going to write something off like this. Are you going to salvage components from it, staff, assets, and transfer them to another facility? Or are you just going to say, bang, this is another Galactic Star cruise experience. We take our knocks, we get our tax rebate, and then it's someone else's problem. That said, if you want an example of what FundSpot America can do right, have a look at their Orlando facility and see how that has organically grown, still incorporates multi-level karting. It has coaster components. It's in a very small package, and it works very, very well. Moving on, and we have transitions and changes. Pete has been a stoic individual, stalwart of the AAMA for the last 10 years, and it has been announced that he will be taking retirement. I'm led to believe in the next couple of weeks and months he's going to be departing the operation. This is all part of a much greater shake-up of the AAMA, the American Amusement and Machine Association, and I think this will have serious ramifications on how the AAMA moves forward, and also the impact that this will also have on the AEI show, which is controlled by the trade association. This kind of change is needed, I feel very strongly. The only thing that I'm interested about is that we don't have a name of who will be jumping in or parachuting into the position he's vacating.
Yeah, I mean, known Pete for a number of years, and he's done some great things during his tenure. And but at the same time, look, new leadership is needed to move things forward into the new era. And we've talked about the amusement industry really needing a strong shakeup, and having new leaders and new blood, new voices, etc. into this role could be really good. Again, depending on who comes in, and we don't know yet. Is it just another OWG, old white guy, or is it somebody different? Whoever that might be coming into this. Hopefully, they're bringing in fresh perspective and fresh energy and fresh blood to really see the amusement industry into the next decade.
Away from the sausage factory analogies that some people have made about certain associations, or the quality of their Menelin numbers, what I need is someone who understands three things: entertainment, and branding. If we can get someone to come in here and be able to force the membership to leave their comfort zone and embrace the needs of a transmedia industry, then we will have to place ourselves, or will inevitably place ourselves on a straighter course. No offense to those that have gone before, but the industry has changed, and we really do need to change. We can't. I know there are a number of the gate guards that will be very unhappy by these developments, but all I can say is more power to Beth Selber.
Indeed.
Next, we have changes. Well, in promotions, changes. I'll leave it to our audience to make the decision here. But F1 Arcade again, another one. We talked about a GM being added to the mix for their North American. Now we're talking about a US Director of Operations. Interesting that this individual comes from a restaurant background. William has really got his feet under the table 11 years with SRG Concepts, who are known for their restaurant and branding operation. And prior to that, he was studying. So he is a relatively fresh-faced individual from a brand and corporate positioning. He has quite a daunting task in front of him of taking the F1 Arcade mix. And this is one of those ones that we could touch upon when we were talking earlier about franchising, saying that this still hasn't really proven its chops, even though it is so many facilities into the business. And I do know that the F1 operation is looking at this as a franchise vehicle.
Yeah, and then this hire, well, look, I mean, he seems like he has great amount of experience in the hospitality and restaurant side, which is awesome. But what this tells me is that F1 Arcade still doesn't fully understand themselves as an entertainment destination. They see themselves as restaurant first, entertainment second. And if you're going to be any level of social entertainment, you need to see yourselves as entertainment first and then restaurant second. And because if you don't get the entertainment mix right, entertainment experience right, you are just a fancy restaurant that has a bunch of simulators sitting in a corner that nobody's using.
I am sure the operation team are breathing a sigh of relief that they've managed to hunt down all of the problems that were holding back the racing simulators that they were operating. We know under the surface from sources that are very close that they had a baptism of fire getting all of their 60 odd per facility simulators working the way they wanted. It took a lot longer for them to get the software to operate the way they wanted, and they're just happy that the teetering house of cards is holding itself together, and they fixate on the price of the cocktails, price of the sliders, and making sure that their booking system and marketing is in place. I'm going to go to my crystal ball and make a prediction that next year we will be hearing about a major root and branch change to the way that the game experience works, how you book the game experience, and possibly the addition of a tournament system or a recurring means to get people into the facility to play the games. Because at some point in time, one of the accountants of the C-suites is going to see that they're not making the proper 40-60 split from their entertainment, and that they are maybe heading more towards a greater split on their food and cocktail over their entertainment. And they are not a cocktail and food facility. They're an entertainment, social entertainment facility that has high level food and beverage. Mm-hmm. We shall see. They may turn around and throw out all of the machines and say, hey, we're just a watch party facility with fantastic cocktails and foods.
or just reduce the number, right? This is what we talk about with Topgolf, just overbuilding your facilities, and just don't have 70 simulators in a location or 50 simulators. Have 20 or have 10 and have smaller locations and maybe them more frequently or whatever. Like, change up your model a little bit. But having 70 simulators, unless they're all actively busy, even if 30 of them are being used, it still looks like you have an empty facility. And that's the same problem with Topgolf. When you have 100 bays over 4 levels or 3 levels, even if 50 of those bays are used, you're still only at 50% capacity. So this is, it's the overbuilding that is the issue for me. And you can, if you to streamline that and really hone in your entertainment experience, I think that's what's going to really help them be sustainable in the long term.
It's that entertainment experience that I am adamant about. I am not heavily a cocktail and food guy. I am an entertainment guy at home, and I know the individuals that sold them on this model of having 60 odd machines in their facilities have disappeared. They're now no longer with that operation. And I also point to the problems that they're having understanding their entertainment simulator mix because of the number of F1 boxes that were opened after they opened that first one. So, we know that there is trouble at mill, to coin a Northern English term, but there is also a very simple path to address all of these and to come out smelling of roses. And readdressing the entertainment mix of these venues is part of that. And this is the type of thing that a new director of operations is going to have to consider. Fever appears a lot next door to Genda in our coverage. And Fever is also in the process of restructuring and repositioning itself as it looks towards its future. Tom comes from a very interesting background. He's ex-Toca Social for 3 years as head of strategy there, as well as 2 years with Timo. Sorry. The issues that I have here is that we're looking at a market strategy and partnership senior manager. You could argue who's he replacing, or did they have someone doing this prior? And we also have to consider what side of the fence, because we've been talking about how Fever has been doing some very high level deals, both in creating their own entertainment operations, such as the Fever Hub that I have as the illustration image here, but also we've seen some major deals with sporting. We've talked about Fever's relationship with F1. Well, at the time of recording, we can also report that Fever has signed a 5-year deal with the Madrid stadium to be in total control of that multi-entertainment facility. It's not just a football stadium, but it also has major live event components. Fever are flexing their muscle. It's just going to be which directions they're going to double down with, or are they going for the world domination approach?
Yeah, and I wonder if they, well, maybe it will be important to have somebody in a strategy component, because we've talked about before, like Fever seems to be taking the shotgun approach to just trying lots of different things, and some things work, some things don't, and that has historically worked for them at the smaller scale in which they initially started, right? But now they're really beginning to expand significantly, taking on really big partnerships, again, like full stadiums, full entertainment portfolios, and managing those across the board. And it's beginning to look a little bit like it is haphazard, and that there isn't a strong, solid, clearly defined strategy in which they are going after. Again, there may be some grand vision, and they're just taking bits and pieces of it. So I am a Fever fan, and just from the outside, just watching what they're doing, because they are one of the few companies really making interesting moves and trying and experimenting different forms of entertainment and experiences. And so I like that, they're shaking things up and trying new things. I like that, melting, not melting pot as much as like they're just stirring the pot a little bit to see what's working. And I think that's useful in our entertainment space. What I actually think is more interesting about this move for Tom coming over to Fever from Toca Social is that he's been at Toca Social for the last 3 years, arguably during their big growth phase as their head of strategy. And on Open and Shut, we were actually questioning Toca Social's expansion strategy, because they're opening one location in Guatemala, as we announced there. They're opening another, location in Mexico, a couple of locations in the U.S., a few locations here and there, and they're expanded across multiple countries, multiple, both currency and language regions. And it just seemed like there actually was very little strategy to their expansion process. And so somebody who was leading that, what I would consider very haphazard strategy, coming over to Fever into a role in which there is also what looks to be a very haphazard strategy, maybe he'll be perfectly suited, or maybe will struggle to bring some directionality to Fever in that particular space. That being said, he's a senior manager, so he's not obviously at the C-suite level quite yet. But yeah, leaving Toca Social during this period of expansion also signals, like, are there things going on inside of Toca Social that he might have seen writing on the wall that potentially we aren't seeing quite yet as well?
You've hit the nail on the head for both sides. For me, why go now when it's needed most, and why turn up here at this level when it's needed most? But I also am a fan of Fever, though we really do need to see Fever take some direction on what they're trying to achieve, rather than the shotgun approach that you described. All that said, there's also a third option here, which is, we know that Fever are looking at possible acquisitions of important entertainment strategies or operations, and those need to be applied to their strategy. So again, whoever he's reporting to in the C-suites is going to really need some strong advice and steerage. Taking on to the next, and I wake up to a news story from, let's see, a local media service while I was out in California, and I have to add a new term to my list, which is the return of the rave. Dave & Buster's has been operating a process for the last few months, if not years, of something called D&B Unlocked. I did not know about this. I had to go away and do a lot of research. What D&B Unlocked is the opportunity for managers on their own decision process. They've been given the rope to hang themselves to create something which are near enough raves, adult-only events taking over the Dave & Buster's space. These have been going on and been, in some cases, been seeing sellout gatherings of individuals celebrating within the Dave & Buster's to live music, or hiring out the karaoke rooms, or just, taking over the entertainment space. And in other locations, it's been hit or miss. I don't know what you feel about this, Brandon, but this just smacks of we don't quite understand what we've got. Let's give it to our GM to try and work it out. And trying to explain to the C-suite accountants why one particular facility is making more money than another, and that's based on the raving and the industrial amounts of alcohol that took place because a certain popular band was playing on stage, will have certain executives asking, what business are we in?
Yeah, when I read about this as well, first of all, I didn't know anything about D&B Unlocked either. But then again, I am not that target audience looking to seek out raves. But this does just again hit me, square across the face and say, like, Dave & Buster's just truly doesn't know who they are. They have lost all sense of identity. If they want to lean into this 21 and over adults only thing, that's fine. But their marketing and everything online and everything, like, it just doesn't align with this type of thing. Like, they just are fully unsure and unclear about who they are and what space they really truly belong in. And this just further emphasizes that point to me.
Do the stats line up that the rave community, or the groups that come to these raves and these special unlocked events, then bring their kids, because many of them will have kids, to a Dave & Buster's afterwards because they had such a good time? Does Dave & Buster's understand the impact this has on their machines? Are their maintenance team having to work twice as hard to repair all the machines, to remove the stage constantly every couple of nights, to just deal with the general impact of running a live gig event within a location-based entertainment space? And when are we going to find out about Main Event Unleashed? Is that something that is also going on that we know nothing about?
No idea.
No idea. We will be revisiting this again, because I know that there will be quite a few investors that will be surprised by this news, as well as just local consultants in the sector. Level 99, they've been in soft opening for a period of time. We've already covered them in sound off, open and shut a number of times. Well, no,
But yeah, basically, because like, how many times have they announced that they're actually truly fucking open? Finally
open, and they had a big party, and yeah. I was just surprised how much the new building and watching the cameras going around reminded me of Disney Quest. So I was getting Disney Quest flashbacks as they were walking around the facility. 63 mission rooms of fun, but the difference here with this particular version of the Level 99 is they've got quite a comprehensive cocktail bar and shareable food menu, much higher level compared to their other 3 facilities. Welcome to Disney Springs. We will be keeping a close eye on you, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that they will do well for a period of time.
Yes.
I mean, this is the mission.
If branded well.
Yeah, fair. But the mission room concept is, they have a lot of competition, obviously, in Disney Springs, but not so much on the entertainment side. There's bowling, there's movies, there's other stuff. There's a lot of F&B, but the mission room concept is doing really well right now. It is one of the more popular types of entertainment concepts in a lot of spaces expanding. And so Level 99 has an opportunity to capitalize on that for a period of time. My big concern for them was how big they built out their F&B element versus really optimizing around the entertainment component, just purely because, yes, they do need to increase their per cap by having F&B. We've talked about that before. They should absolutely have that. But there is an enormous amount of F&B competition elsewhere. And so how much will people stay for the food after or before they've played the entertainment, when they can go across the street or across the walkway, not even the street, to the House of Blues? They put in the reservation at House of Blues, go play some mission rooms at Level 99, and then go back out over to House of Blues, listen to some live music, and have some Southern Creole food. So anyway, that is one of the issues I think that they will experience, given the amount of real estate they've given to their F&B component.
As a man that went through the pain and anguish when we opened Disney Quest on that very space over 20 years ago, they have not really learned one of the most important lessons, which is, what the hell are you? So they're going to now, their staff, 20 years on, are going to be experiencing the same thing that our staff experienced at Disney Quest, with people just sticking their heads in and going, what films are you showing? They do not define themselves clearly outside as a mission room experience, and it's going to be very hard for them to try and get that branding out unless they've got a serious marketing project in place and that they've positioned what they've done. I don't know, walking through the front door, if you see the bar first or if you see the registration tables first. Also, as you say, it's a very big space for 63. Within that 49,000 square facility, I am surprised that they didn't go for a mixed entertainment blend. Maybe put in something on the ground floors along with their mission room. But again, Level 99 has planted its flag in the ground as being a mission room entertainment, going up against the Activates of the world. And we will just have to see how this facility does over the next 24 months. And this is the last time I'm going to be talking about it opening.
Yeah.
Moving on, and Gravity kind of follows what we were talking about in a previous sound off. We touched upon a entertainment facility taking a fast food franchise represented by a known personality and adding it to their lineup of food. Very similar to what we saw with the Shaq O'Neal chicken facility, we see Gravity in their third of their Gravity Max sites, and a troubled Gravity Max site. The Liverpool facility went into an unusual shaped facility and has been trying to find its feet regarding its social entertainment offering and its mix. It has quite a dedicated upstairs competitive socializing kind of atmosphere, but feeding the hunger of the audience that they're trying to attract, they've gone with Sides. And Sides is run by another group of charismatic, well-known individuals. In this case, YouTubers. YouTubers with a group of YouTubers with over 22 million supporters. I am fascinated to see Gravity parachuting in licensed venues into their space. And I'm wondering if we're going to see the same thing happen across their other Gravity Max facilities. That would be incredibly telling if that is the case.
It would be interesting, and I don't fully understand the strategy here for both Gravity as well as for Elevate, who brought in the Shaq's Chicken Chain. And the reason is, like, unless it's really going to be a marketing draw to get people in your doors to come to Sides, when there's already standalone Sides locations, like maybe I can go to one of those. Why would I go inside of a Gravity to go to the Sides? So unless you're really gaining from that marketing and that footfall increase by having this well-known brand inside your facility, you are then only giving up the potential margin and upside from an F&B, an F&B cross sale, because they're giving up money to Sides to be there, unless Sides is like actually leasing space and they're just a subtenant of that particular space. You are giving up revenue, but by even being a subtenant, you're giving up that potential per cap increase in revenue from the guests who are coming in to do your entertainment. You're now handing that revenue you would have made from the F&B over to some third party. And I don't know that those two things one way outweighs the other. And it'd be interesting to understand their math, because to me, it doesn't seem to make enough sense.
I've been hearing a lot of things about Gravity Max maths recently. So I am equally confused. The benefits, do they outweigh the negatives? They are a target audience recognized chain, if you want to use that. Is the Liverpool audience that familiar with the Sidemen? Will that definitely bring them in? Is the quality of chicken enough that it won't impact the reviews and evaluation of your facilities, as we mentioned with the Shaq situation? If the food is bad, if the service is bad, it isn't Sides that is going to be getting the hate mail. It will be Gravity Max. And also, if we don't see this applied across the other Gravity Max chains, is this just a one-off to salvage a problem child, or is this just an experiment? Lots of questions to be answered. When we revisit this in 12 months' time, not 24, but in 12 months' time, we should have the answers one way or the other.
Indeed.
Moving on, and the tourist of pain for all of you people out there that are following, quite a split there. But anyway.
All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we will continue.
Every birthday you miss is a party booked somewhere else. If you run a trampoline park, family entertainment center, play cafe, or party venue, Party Ping connects to your booking system and automatically sends a text to parents with a personalized birthday message, along with a custom gift for their kid, at just the right time when they're deciding where to celebrate. Venues using Party Ping see 20% more party bookings. More parties, zero extra work. Check them out at partyping.ai. That's partyping.ai.
Thank you for that. And straight into the tech and IP. And it is 35 years since I sat in the Ali Pali in London and watched the launch of the first virtual reality arcade products. 35 years. Wow. Feeling it. And then, while I'm flicking through my usual research, I come across the usual schlop AI informatics telling me how much this fantastic VR LBE market is worth at the moment. $5.8 billion pulled out of someone's arse, courtesy of ChatGPT. But the point I'm trying to make here is it is fascinating to consider that we have survived that momentum, that even 35 years on, that we are still very active in looking at VR and XR as strong components of the location-based entertainment industry, to the point that we're now talking about the next generation 3, 4, and 5 going forwards with this, and kind of mirroring what we were seeing at the LBX XR zone during AWE a few weeks back, but also mirroring what we can expect to see in September and in November at IALPA, where this is a very important line in the sand of what is going to be driving us going forwards within this sector.
Yeah. Certainly, 35 years is an interesting marker here for this industry, but obviously it took many, many years for the technology to catch up, ultimately to be a real, true industry. But 5.8 billion just seems completely overvalued for what we've seen going forward. If we're talking about LBE VR versus XR and all of its various forms.
Sadly, that Schlopware infographics was very sloppy in its detail and definition, and it was also a kind of clickbait because they wanted you to buy their report from a group of individuals that I'm sure can't even spell location, let alone based. So the issue that I really wanted to point out was that virtuality doesn't appear on a lot of people's radar as the first of the VR arcade because of the baptism of fire that it went through. Company near enough lasted just under 4 years, crashed and burnt, and then we had a long period of the wilderness before the next attempt to try and establish VR. And maybe, just maybe, we're due for another period of wilderness and navel gazing going forwards, though I don't believe that, because no matter what the Schlopware tells us, we know there's an industry here that needs to be fed. And feeding that industry with new content is essential in a transmedia market. And we're lucky enough to have companies like Synthesis VR. For the sake of transparency, we do some consultancy with these guys, but they are the leader at the moment in distributing content, both VR arcade content to the existing VR arcade sector, but also free roaming PC VR content to those venues looking at the next generation. And we're seeing that consolidation that I keep on going on about, where another VR distributing company, Optipod VR, with a selection of very well-known games, their owners have decided that they want to focus on consumer game development. Their location-based entertainment game distribution operation, Optipod, is taking up too much of their cycles. They then sit down and form a partnership with Synthesis VR. Synthesis takes all of these games available, adds them to their developed platform, supports the existing client base, and we have a smooth transition, and one company migrates away and another company gets a little bit bigger. We're kind of going to be seeing that type of development happening a lot in this sector, moving away from the hype and more towards the ROI.
Yeah, this is exactly what we talked about, I think, even at the beginning of the year. We've been talking about for a while, but during our predictions episode, where we're just going to see this consolidation amongst VR companies, both at the content level and at the facility level, as well as the product and platform level.
Yes, that's just the way things are going to be for the foreseeable future. Going back to another topic that we touched upon in a previous sound off, I have been caught up to date with a couple of other entertainment brands that have attempted to jump onto the World Cup fever. One is a direct license for World Cup footage between our friends at COSM. So they have sat down with Fox and they've signed a deal where they will be showing selected games from the World Cup oustings on their giant screen. I am sure this is going to be good business for them, especially in the final. I wouldn't want to be stuck in a COSM facility during the final. The food, the booze, and the atmosphere is going to be amazing and electric, but also very crowded. And then on the other side, our friends at Immersive Gamebox, they've just turned around and announced that they've got something called Soccer Arcade. Announcing it halfway through the game seems a little bit weird to me, but anyway, they've announced that they have a football-inspired game running on their immersive environment. And from what I've seen from the trailer teaser video, it's football.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, first of all, Fox at COSM, the World Cup at COSM, exactly the type of facility I'd want to watch a World Cup game at.
Yeah, of course.
More than even probably being at the game itself. Like just being there in a COSM arena is the way to watch sports. It's absolutely incredible. So, good on them. Again, a little bit late, but better late than never. I wouldn't have expected them to be in any of the group stage just because the volume of games is so high. Like, how do you pick which ones? So it makes sense that they're showing up like now at the group 16 stage. So that makes sense. A little bit more, they'll probably be at the playoffs and finals, and that will be their main focus. But or not the playoffs, but like the final four and then into the
final
finals.
Four. Yeah.
But with Gamebox, like this one, Immersive Gamebox, this just is exactly one of their issues that I have with them, is that they just continually miss the mark on things. They should have launched this significantly earlier, again, so that the venues who are using them could leverage the marketing and everything else that the World Cup had leading into it. But I will say the one thing that maybe they did right here is that they didn't license the FIFA name.
Yeah,
right?
for once they didn't license
by FIFA or something, right? This is like actually something they developed internally without having to go and get some external IP and pay out the nose for it.
And for all we know, developing it in-house has been such a baptism of fire that it's taken them this long to be able to complete it and roll it out. So there's a lot of issues here, but yeah, it's just good to see more people embracing the opportunity here. I agree with you. I would really like to see the finals for the World Cup. I don't like football that much, but I know that the atmosphere is going to be amazing for the final game, and doing it in a COSM where the quality of the food is not poor and the quality of the drinks is very high, then that's much better than a overpriced hot dog and some warm beer that you're going to get at the actual stadia. Moving on, and IP. Constant IP, constant transmedia. If we're not talking about doing deals to get on board with FIFA World Cup, if we're not talking about Shaq or YouTubers, food properties being parachuted into your entertainment sites, we're talking about taking a very successful TV series, Peaky Blinders, and turning it into an immersive experience that you can leverage both with the IP, with themed environments, live actors, and tons of merch. And so we've got Peaky Blinders Underworld opening not a million miles away from where I'm sitting here in London. And this is going to really go for the tourists and for the audience recognition. And I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how well this themed environment, they are actually building show set, so you can walk around. It isn't a VR experience. It is going to be an immersive live actors experience. I wouldn't be surprised to see this rolled out at some other locations internationally.
Yeah, but I think those locations, we talked about with these types of live interactive actor-led encounters and experiences, these locations have to have a strong base of theater actors and others that that are looking to fill their nights and evenings in between shows and in between gigs. And so, I think it does limit the number of locations globally that they can go to. But I wouldn't be surprised if this does expand.
It's going to be interesting to see. And again, I'm hoping that the level of themality is very high, because of, if possible, they can actually use actual film sets reconfigured or the designs for actual show sets reconfigured for the audience that they're dealing with. This is on a kind of a similar level to the War of the Worlds without the VR element. And as you say, the live action or live actors component is going to be a difficult one to master, but will be a major part of it. Our Gender moment, and our friends at Gender North Americas have announced that they've got an app for that. They've just released a Kiddleton app that will allow guests and regular visitors to hunt down the merch, see the closest venues to them, and also take part in special collections and tournaments and such like. An app is essential for your repeat visitation numbers. And it's interesting that Genda's had in Japan a considerable number of apps targeting their audience. Now we see that broached in the North American market, and I wouldn't be surprised that we will also see that parachuted into their European interests.
Certainly. And I think the fact that it's branded as a Kittleton app just further underscores the fact that as Genda rolls out and really begins to transform their various forms of various acquisitions they've made here, that it will be under the consumer-facing Kittleton brand.
Yes, it will be interesting to see how much they push Kittleton, especially in North America, front and center. We have it on the machines, we have it on their smaller facilities. How long before they even rebrand their entertainment facility in Chicago, Kittleton rather than Enterspace? We will have to wait and see. And then finally, I'm back on the road again soon. Well, so we say the middle of August or near the end of August. I am reprising my presentation role at Amusement 360. The team has been kind enough to ask me to come over and do a special session, not this time on XR, but focusing on social entertainment and looking at how competitive socializing and social entertainment fits into the mix if you're opening a location-based entertainment, or if you have an existing FEC, what you really need to be considering to get that competitive socializing dollar. If you're not familiar with Amusement 360, it is a boot camp for those entering the location-based entertainment market. It's also a place where existing operations go to get a brain dump of the latest trends and developments that happen in the market. It is also supported by a very extensive manufacturers and distributors and suppliers exhibition component, and it is I find it incredibly valuable for the audiences that we get to touch. We get one-on-one with the operators and a lot of new blood that is moving into this market, and vice versa. They get a lot of value out of being able to directly speak to the presenters there. If you need more information, grab that QR code or use the HTML at the bottom there to get all of the details. And finally, another QR code for you regarding hitting us up via our LinkedIn or just using our email. If you have any questions or any information you'd like to pass on, we have Stinger reports out there, a couple more sitting on my machine right now, and we will be having some more entertainment social arenas added to the list.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that and the siren dragging you off wherever you're going, it was a great sound off, Kevin, and looking forward to next week's as we dig into more of the ongoing trends.
Thank you very much and have a good one.